Cameras going. So, good morning. How are you? Blessings on your life. It is the day that the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. I don't know how I'm going to do this today because I got two cameras going and I need to look at both cameras. And I got distractions going on outside the house right here. So, hi, everybody, to everybody. Blessings on your life. Blessings on your life. Um, it's Sunday, and what I'm doing, it may not feel like it, it may not look like it because the sun may not be shining to reflect it, but I am like buzzing. Like zzzz. Did you feel that kind of get in your ear? Did you feel that all around your face and stuff like that? I'm a bumblebee. I'm a bumblebee. And what do bumblebees do? They pollinate. They pollinate. And what I'm doing, I fashioned myself, I positioned myself as a bumblebee in this particular message because what I want to do, my intent is to pollinate you, to get on top of you and stir up the gift that is on the inside of you. That is something there that needs to come out. And so you've attracted me. You've attracted me. You got my attention. And since you got my attention, I'm going to come all around you. It must be the fragrance that you're wearing. It must be. It's something about you that is attracting me to you. And because of that, I have something that I feel that you will benefit by. So I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to. Oh, Lord have mercy. What was that just got in my ear? It was Donnie. He just beezing around. He beezing around. Now, listen, here's the thing. I thought about something and I said, if I was Bezos, the Amazon owner, if I was why can't I think of these wealthy men names? Tesla, the Tesla guy. If I was one of them, I mean, I would have 600 million trillion thousand views right now, right? Because it ain't what Bezos is saying, and it ain't what Elon Musk is saying. It's what they have. It's what they have. And so we are attracted now to what they have because I promise you, if neither one of them had any money, they couldn't get the time or the day from not Nan, one of y'all, not one, would they get the time of the day. But because they have the means, they have the moolah, they have the green stuff, we listen. Our antennas go up. We get perky when they come around. Why? Because they represent what we want and what we need, or what we think we want and what we need. I said that because I want you to think of me today as a Bezos or an Elon Musk without the money, but the tools and the knowledge to get it. Now, I don't know why they got blessed like they got blessed. I don't know. And a lot of Christians, if you did have that money, maybe we wouldn't know what to do with it. I don't know. But I'm trying to, like my granddaddy used to say, I'm trying to hit you. I'm trying to hit you. So maybe I don't have all that. And y'all, excuse me on this other camera, excuse my background, because I can't get the green screen to work on that one. So it is what it is. But what I want to do is I want to give you the basic tools that can pull the gold outside of you, that can pull the silver outside of you, because it is inside of you. We have these treasures that now are in earthen vessels, and we have to figure out how to get them out. What I'm concerned about and what I don't want to happen is for us to bees around, to fly around, do our thing, and we do it in front of our children and so on and so forth, and our children see how we pollinate. I want you to think about this. What have you been cross pollinating? What have you been cross pollinating? In other words, what is it that you're doing that you're infecting people with, that you're infecting your family, that you're infecting your children with, that is not going to be beneficial? Now, I'm cross pollinating today, and I feel like it is of necessity to do it. I feel like it's important. I feel like it has it has the stuff in it that will take you down the road. That's what I feel it is. I don't feel that it's without aim, purposeless. I feel that it's very intentional what I'm doing. However, I want you to think about that with respect to what you do on a regular basis. And some of you respond to this question very well. Um, but others do not respond as well. But what you do and what you have presented, what you have cross pollinated the spaces that you live in with, that has grown to be a perpetuation, even to your family, to your children, so on and so forth. And nobody's really reaping a dividend or benefit from. And so, because the old adage is monkey see, monkey do what monkey see, something like that. Monkey do, monkey see, whatever that is, right? And so we grow up as a culture of people, and we replicate what we've been pollinated by, you know. So I can only give you what I have. I can only give you what I have. And we can't really blame ourselves in many instances for being who we are, because that's all we saw, or that's all that was given to us. Now, there are cases where, like in my case, I grew up with a middle class family. Really didn't want for much, anything like that. But did they know everything? Absolutely not. It was just the grace and mercy of God, the goodness of God, that um, I got an opportunity, and it was just because it was my pathway to be exposed to some things, to see some things, to hear things that took me outside of the environment that pollinated me, if you will. Okay, but that's rare. That does not happen on a regular basis, and so I just want to give you that for food for thought. That may be the reason why we are wanting, maybe the reason why we are longing, and we are dealing with this thing called lack, um, and poverty, is because we have not been properly taught, educated, and exposed. And so that is the plan today. And with this series is to help educate and get our people. And when I say our people, I don't mean that carte blanche. I do mean that I have a heart for African American people, because I feel that that has been where the most pain has been targeted. Now that does not mean that I feel sorry. It just means that when I look at it from a historical lens, that optic suggests to me that they have been dealt a very disadvantaged hand that most people don't see. Okay, don't mean that other races have not experienced racism, slavery, and all the other disadvantages that Black people, but to me, Black people have experienced it on a much greater level. Case in point, Jews, when they were captured, and the things that they went through, the Holocaust and all that, and other nationalities, when they come here to United States, they are given a stimulus, if you will. It is they are given some form of recognition that something happened to them, and because of whatever that was that happened to them, it gives them somewhat of a jump start. Now, black people are still trying to put their hands on reparations. And will that happen? I mean, I don't know, but it just seems to be like they are the ones that always kind of get the short end of the stick. And so we're here today. We kind of want to mitigate that. So in that, I know we talked last week a little bit, and about what's in your hand, and we left off in that particular message with Moses. And God was asking him, Moses, what is it in your hand? And I told you all that what Moses had in his hand literally was not what it really was or what it could be. It was so much more than what was in his hand. In his hand was a staff. And so with a staff, it represented authority, but it also represented nations. Why? Because with the staff, he was going to direct some 3 to 6 million people that was in the desert. Those 3 to 6 million people, or this congregation of people, or this church, or this company, whatever you want to call it, of people, they all were gifted. They had something very special that God had given to them. And so I'm saying that to say this. Moses had more than a staff, and with that staff, he had to he had to come into a saving knowledge of what that was. And God would take him on the backside of the desert, and he would go and practice. And with his practicing, God say, well, take that and stretch it out. When he stretched it out, it turns into a snake. And when he goes to pick it back up, it turns into a rod. So he was doing this stuff. He was practicing because God knew that he was going to use him once he opened up the curtains before Pharaoh. So he's going to come to the big stage. And I'm only saying that because God was showing him, and Moses was uniquely designed for a purpose. All right. And I want you to understand that God has given you something in your hand, and you have been uniquely designed for a special purpose. And when you have those purposes in you and that design in you, because God didn't make no junk, we were marvelously created. Okay. When God did that, didn't nobody have to tell you what it was. It just came out. I was visiting my daughter the other day, and I was just noticing some things about her. Now she came from my sack. All right, her mother birthed her out, but she came from my sack. But out of that, I don't have the wherewithal from a creativity standpoint. I am not an artiste. I am not an artiste. I couldn't draw. I can't draw nothing. Did you heard? I can't draw nothing. Now, my baby girl, she is gifted. When I say gifted, she is gifted. Now she can draw faces. I mean, just from arts, crafts, and all that stuff, just gifted. And when we talk about it, sometimes she said, well, I get it from you, because she said, no, Dad, you don't recognize the gift that you passed on. It's not art like me, but she says the creativity. So I work with my hands. So you put a house in front of me, you put wood in front of me. I'll make this out of wood. I'll do this. So I can work with tools and all that kind of stuff. If it's something that's broke, if it's something that needs to be wired up, if you need to get plumbing or all that kind of stuff, I can do that. So what she says to me, and to encourage me, she says that's the same thing. But I'm saying that because what I want you to recognize is what's inside of you. I wasn't really responsible for giving that to her. She had a unique gift that was God given. Now, here's the issue with that, and here's the issue with many of us, is that we want to embrace what the world says has value to it. We want to embrace and stay right there. We want to live in that court. We want to live right there because we feel like if we ain't doing what they, and who is they anyway? They, whatever it is, who are they? If we ain't doing what they say, that we should be doing or what they have put value to, then we feel like we don't have any worth. We feel like we don't have any self-worth. And so we continue to go after another man's oil. That's your oil. So if that's your oil, then you do you. Do you, player. Don't I'm not gonna do you because doing you is gonna kill me. I can't do that. That's not my oil. See, my oil is doing what I do. And when I do what I do, it brings joy to me. I do it with simplicity. A lot of folks say, well, how can you teach and preach and do that twice a week and you run a business and you do this and you do that? Because it brings joy to me. I don't, it's not toiling. I don't toil when I do it. I don't toil when I come before you. It's not, I don't freak out. I don't panic. It's my calling. It's the oil that God gave to me. Now, is it recognized? Do people put a lot of value on it? Probably not. That's the reason why I preface this by talking about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Because if it was $1 billion behind my name, I wouldn't have to worry about all, setting up and trying to figure out cameras and why this green screen ain't working and all that kind of stuff. It'd be 100 people around me trying to make sure that everything was right for me. Why? Because I'm papered up like that. Okay. But conversely, I'm trying to get something to you. It may not look like that kind of paper, but what I can say that I know the path and I know how to deal with common people. Okay, basic people. It's like hitting the lottery. Even it's even harder than hitting the big lottery to turn into an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos. Okay, or Warren Buffett, whatever it is. It's that's very challenging. But what we can do, as I said last week, we can be a part of the 150 plus billion-dollar club that the bees represent in terms of GDP, gross domestic product. We can be a part of that. What do I mean by that? We can take a part of what bees are responsible to bringing to people for our sustenance, for our survival, and we can be creative in some way, form, or fashion to take a chunk out of that 150 plus billion dollars that bees are responsible for. No, maybe you don't get the whole thing, and it ain't even, it's probably not even the plan of God for you to get the whole thing, but you need to get something. And that's something that you get. You can leave a legacy for your children and for your children's children and so on and so forth. So the thing about it, let's bounce back to Moses here real quick. What Moses had to do, and this is a very key word here, Moses had to be taught. And that's what I'm here today to do. I am here and I'm trying to get a message and a word to you. I want you to be taught. Moses just didn't come out. I know that he was in the king's court and he grew up as a prince. I understand that. And he had the best of food, he had the best of schooling and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he had to be taught. What I want to know from you today is, why won't some of you sit down to be taught, to learn? Why won't that happen? Because it's here. I'm giving it to you. As I mentioned last week, my frustration is that I'm gifted. I know I'm gifted. I know I'm gifted in so many areas. And part of my frustration is that I have a very low turnover. That means that I have found it very challenging to give it away, to give. And it's something that you have a blessing that you want to bless people with and they don't want it. I mean, to really get them from where they are to where they want to be and they don't want it. Why? Because people want what they want and they want it now. It took me 13 years to finally get my doctorate degree. 13 years. But that was the stepping stone was three other degrees that went before that. Now in those degrees, they had money attached to them. They did. My last degree, I didn't do that for money. I'm not here right now for money. That's not what I'm trying to do. I am here because I see the urgency in the moment and the urgency in the trajectory of of where we're headed, and I'm trying to get all the information and all the whatever it is, the wherewithal, in order to get us to where we can live healthier, better, and all that. That's my objective. And so in order for us to get there, we have to be taught. Okay. And so that's part of my calling. I talk, and I'm trying to teach. But moreover, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stir up. The Bible says to stir up the gift inside of you, to stir it up, to stir it up. Now, how are we, or what are we doing to posture ourselves, to position ourselves to stir up the gift? To stir up the gift. You have to stir up the gift that is inside of you, Timothy. Stir it up. You can't just set on that. But stirring it up, I guess I'm putting the cart before the horse, because before you can stir it up, you got to recognize it. We talked about that, the recognition piece on last week. All of us have something that we have to offer. And again, all I'm doing today is I'm just a pollinating bee. All I'm doing is just zzz. I'm trying to get all around, all in your face, all in your ears, all in your shirt. I'm trying to just get all over you, to stir up, to pollinate you with some information that is going to help you. All right. So um let's I want us to go and visit something real quick. I want us to go to the book of Daniel, and I got paper all over the place today. And I just want to hit this just for a second, and then we're gonna move on. So I want to go to Daniel 1 and 3, and let's find that. Daniel 1 and 3. I got it in here somewhere. I know I got it in here somewhere. Got it in here somewhere. Here it is. Daniel 1 and 3. Let's put some glasses on here because things have changed a bit. And let's just try to make this quick, and so y'all can go on with your Sunday and have a good day. Daniel chapter number 1. I believe that's where I want to be at. Daniel chapter number 1. Why these pages sticking? And it says here, and the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain. Now I want you to hone in on that word certain, because Strong's and dictionaries, and when we go to reference that word certain, you will not find a definition. It's like a blank right there. But it's a blank for a reason. And I don't want to do a deep dive session into that. But just for the short of a long explanation for that, certain men means that I'm getting ready to give you a description. So now when we say certain, you have to look at what follows. Okay. But I want you to understand and to lock in on what is a certain man, and do you fall into the category of not just being a man, but I want you, Daniel, or Ashpenaz, I want you to go and get certain of the children of Israel. So certain men, women, children of Israel. Then it says, and of the king's seed. So it's Israel, the king's seed, and of the princes. So these are the three people that the king now, that is Nebuchadnezzar, he wants him to go and get certain men from these three groups. And out of these three groups, you fall in one of those groups. I'm telling you right now, you fall into one of those groups. And I don't want, if somebody's been trying to minimize you and make you feel that you are not a part, you are a part of one of those groups because you are of the household of faith. You just got to figure it out. You just got to come into a saving knowledge of what group that you are a part of. So it's three groups. It's the household of faith, the children of Israel, certain men of the children of Israel. Then is certain men of the king seed. See, that's your competition. That's your competition. That's the world now. That's the world. Those are the ones that usually when I talk about last week and the week before, when I talked about the Amorites, the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Jebusites, and all that, those are the ones that got your stuff. Those are the ones that are intimidating. Those are the ones that when God brought them out of Egypt, he wanted to take them straight through, but it says, peradventure, you see the Philistines and you turn back, fear comes upon you. That's them, the king seed. They got your stuff. In other words, they grew up with power. They're very I don't want to call them peculiar because we're peculiar, but they're a very advantaged people. Advantaged people. And then it goes on to say, and of the princes. So these are the ones that are privileged. They set in high places. Okay. Now, watch this. I said all that, probably didn't even need to say it because I'm trying to get somewhere else. Verse number 4 says, children. Now, children, understand that, because a children denotes somebody that can be trained or taught. That's the whole purpose of the king here. And that's the whole purpose of the place and the space that you live in, is that massa is always, see, they should tell us, they say, mom and them, when they was going to spank you behind and all that kind of stuff, they say you have to break them when they're young. It's like an oak tree. You can't bend an oak tree once the oak tree gets to a certain age and to a certain size. You can't. You got to cut it down. Why? Because it's too big, it's too strong, it's too hard. So you can't do it. So here, the king, he makes it very specific. He says, I want of the children. Now, these three categories, but I want them to be of the children of Israel, children of the princes, and children of the king's seed. That's what I want. Now, watch. He says, of in whom was no blemish. In whom was no blemish. Now, the word blemish here, without getting into a whole lot of explanation and hermeneutics and all that stuff, the word blemish here means to not have physical defect or a moral stain. Now, you got to understand who's talking, because Lord have mercy, when the king Nebuchadnezzar, when the king Biden, when the king Trump, when the king what's the dude over there in Russia, when the kings talk about give me somebody with no blemish and no moral defect, that's a different type of blemish understanding and moral defect understanding than what will come from God. So they asking you to bring me what I want, what I consider that has no blemish and has no moral defect. You got to keep that in front, because see, that's the reason why so many people go on an interview and they got these cliques, the good old boy clubs and all that kind of stuff. And when you come out of there, because you've been interviewed by somebody that has been sent by the king, and the king is saying, bring to me somebody that look a certain way. That's the reason why I tell y'all in this message right here, because I preached this about 15 years ago, and I did a series called the Mind of the King. And oftentimes you have to not necessarily do what the king wants, but you have to understand the mind of the king. And so the king is going to say, in order for you to get this high-paying job that's $150,000, $200,000, maybe you can't walk in there with braids. If you're gonna do braids, wait till you've been there for a year or two and you've established yourself and you bring a certain value that they can see, and then braid your hair up. But in order to get the job from the onset, Maybe you need to go in with a low cut, little fro, whatever it is, but you need to look like the king would want you to look. And then he comes in, he talks about a moral defect. And so moral defect means, do you think that they'll do, again, they're children now, because you can shape a children. Do you you can shape a child? Do you think we can make them do? We can raise them up to be like what we want them to be. Bring me those types of people. Now, just don't bring them to me from my court, but bring them to me from the king seed and the prince's court and of the children of Israel, the household of faith. I want all of them because I believe that I can influence them all. Not only that, God wants you there because if you understand and you watch and you read what's in here, you'll see that Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, all of them, you will see that they didn't go according to what the king wanted. Even when the king wanted them to eat the king's food and all that, they said, "Well, no, this is give us this, give us pulp." And then you come back and you look at us after so many days and see if we don't fare better than y'all that's eating top USRDA, whatever you call it, USDA meat of steak and all the stuff that's top notch. And see, don't we fare better eating our vegetables and all that kind of stuff? Why? Because God wants to position you to where you're on top. And you have to be in the thick of it. You have to go where the problem is. That's why Daniel had to go. He had to be sold into Babylon. He had to go there. Why? Because the presence of the Lord had to go there. You can't, you always have, the men and women of God always have to go where the problem is. You have to go to, because without your representation there is no resolve for the problem. That's another message. He says, "Bring me men that don't have blemish, but are well favored." How much time do I got here? But well favored and skillful in wisdom. Now, the word favored here has to do with sight and vision. It does not have to do when we say favor and all that kind of stuff. It's a different definition, different connotation, different it goes in a different direction. So favor here has to do with sight and vision. He says, I want somebody that is proactive. I need somebody that's thinking about the future. I need somebody that is ambitious. I need somebody that has a desire to be something in life. That's what the word favored here is. So to have sight and vision, or a person God can depend on giving them something. That's the other godly definition for the word favored here in the Hebrew. It means that God can trust you with giving you something that belongs to him. Ultimately, it's going to have the mind of God, the heart of God, the vision of God attached to it. All right, I got to move on. I ain't got but a couple minutes, and then we'll finish it up later. And then he says here, skillful in all wisdom. Now, the word skillful here means to be prudent, to be circumspect, to be wisely or wisely understanding, and to prosper. The words they're kind of congruent or cousins to one another. But you can see what they're looking for is certain men. Again, I'm trying to get you to see what this certain, because it preferences what Nebuchadnezzar preferences his eunuch to do. He says, go get me certain man, and then these are the attributes for certain. So my question to you today is, are you a certain man? Do you have are you non-blemished like Nebuchadnezzar's looking for? Or are you favored in the way that will be productive, and somebody can look at you and say they bring value to me? Are you skillful? That means, are you prudent? Are you prudent? Are you wise? Are you going to be prosperous? Are you going to be a good steward over that which I have entrusted you with? Then it goes on to say, and in wisdom, favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge. Now, wisdom here means to be shrewd, or it also means to be wise in spiritual matters. Shrewd and to be wise in spiritual matters. Now, I gotta move on quickly. Cunning here means to be able to discern, to find out. In other words, remember I talked about mining it out. You have this treasure in earthen vessels, but you have to mine it out, or you have to be perceptive. So it's not only to be perceptive, to benefit you, to understand you, to see you, but to be to perceive and to understand and other people, to to be perceptive of other people as well. Okay, that's just not you. That perception is not limited to you, but it's also that I have the wherewithal, the ability to discern others, to perceive others. That's what cunning there is. And then it says cunning, and it says to be cunning and in knowledge and understanding science, to be cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such had ability in them to stand before the king. Now, so these are the prerequisites, these are the requirements that King Nebuchadnezzar was looking for out of these three groups. These three groups. He says, bring me certain children, certain men like that. Okay. And it goes on here to talk about science. And I don't have time to really delve in this the way that I want to. But remember, I often go back to the science because God is a God of science. In other words, we spend a lot of time trying to find God in the Bible and righteousness and all that. And if you want to know about God, he's more than the Bible. He's more than just walking righteous. He's more than that. And most of us, we fail in that. We flunk in that anyway. So if you want to know about God, then you will find God in nature. If you want to know about God, you find God in mathematics and in different sciences and in biology and all those different things, in creativity. That's where you find God at as well. So it goes beyond going to church. Okay. You find God in business. You find God in it. You find God in rocks. You find God in the soil. You find God in seeds. You find God in flour. You find God in cows. You find God in bees. You find God in the Bible says the whole world, the whole earth is full of the glory of God. All creation is full of the glory of God. Heavens and earth is full of the glory of God. So if you want to know more about God, then you got to know a little bit about everything, not just, how to win somebody to Christ, but you find out about God when you ain't broke. Because a broke person, they live in the space of pouting, they live in the space of longing, they live in the space of need, they live in a space of fear, of doubt. It's a depression, sickness. That's where that's at. And God don't live in those spaces. Now he can bring you out, and that's the reason why in Exodus 3 and 8 he says that I want to bring you out of the land of Egypt. The land of the oppressor, the ones that hold you down, that's got you restricted in a narrow place. That's what that is. All right. I gotta go, y'all. I hope I didn't mess this up too bad. Hope you got something out of this on this morning. I want you to be blessed. Remember this, men and women of God, the worst is over and the best is yet to come. Your quality of life is getting better and better and better. And because of that, you're going to live and not die and declare the works and the will of the Lord. Until next time, this is Face to Face. And I'll see you on Wednesday, if the Lord says the same. Be blessed. Godspeed.